What happens when a man disrespects one of America's most beloved judges, not once, not twice, but 10 separate times in open court? The answer will leave you speechless. Before we dive into this incredible story, hit that subscribe button because you won't believe what Judge Caprio does at the end of this case. Drop a comment right now telling us if you've ever witnessed someone completely change their attitude in a courtroom. Like this video if you believe in second chances, because what you're about to see will challenge everything you think you know about justice. March 17, 2023, Providence Municipal Court. A typical Friday morning docket with parking violations, minor traffic offenses, the usual parade of citizens hoping for leniency. Judge Frank Caprio sat behind his bench, that familiar warm smile on his face, his grandson standing beside him as always. The courtroom was packed, not just with defendants waiting their turn, but with film crews, social media teams, and visitors from around the country who'd come specifically to see the judge whose viral videos had touched millions of hearts. The atmosphere felt almost festive, hopeful. People believed in this courtroom. They believed in this judge. Then Marcus Anthony Richardson walked in. 32 years old. 6'2", designer leather jacket from All Saints, distressed jeans that probably cost more than most people's weekly grocery bill, limited edition Nike Air Jordan ones on his feet. Everything about his appearance screamed money and attitude. His lawyer, Patricia Chen, a public defender with 14 years of experience, walked slightly behind him, her face already showing signs of concern. She had met with Marcus 3 times before this hearing. Each meeting had gone worse than the last. Share this video with someone who needs to understand what real accountability looks like, because what happens next is unbelievable. The case itself seemed straightforward on paper. Marcus had accumulated 7 parking tickets over 6 months in downtown Providence. Total fines, $840. But these weren't just parking tickets. Each one told a story. The first ticket was issued outside Rhode Island Hospital in a clearly marked ambulance zone. The second blocked a wheelchair ramp at a senior center. The third was in a fire lane outside an elementary school during pickup hours. The 4th through 7th followed the same pattern, each one showing complete disregard not just for parking laws, but for the safety and accessibility needs of the community. Judge Caprio looked at the file, then looked up at Marcus with those eyes that had seen everything in 4 decades on the bench. "Mr. Richardson," he began, his voice carrying that distinctive Rhode Island accent that his viewers loved. "I see here you have 7 parking violations over 6 months. That's quite a—" "Yeah, I know what I got," Marcus interrupted, his voice loud and sharp. "Can we just get this over with? I got places to be." The courtroom went silent. If you've ever watched Judge Caprio's show, you know that people don't interrupt him, not because he demands respect through fear or intimidation, but because he gives respect so freely that people naturally return it. Patricia Chen's hand went to her forehead. This was interruption number 1. Judge Caprio paused. His expression didn't change, but something shifted in the room's energy. "Mr. Richardson," he continued calmly, "I understand your time is valuable. Everyone's time is valuable. But we need to review these violations because they involve public safety concerns. The first ticket was issued on September 23rd outside Rhode Island Hospital in an emergency vehicle zone. Can you tell me what you were doing there?" Quote, "Look, I was picking up my girlfriend. She texted me she was ready. I pulled up. I ran in for like 2 minutes. 2 minutes! And some overzealous parking cop decides to write me up for 8. "Mr. Richardson," Judge Caprio's voice remained even, "I didn't ask about the ticket. I asked what you were doing at the hospital. Was everything all right with your girlfriend?" Quote, Marcus blinked, thrown off by the question. For a second, his defensive posture softened. Yeah, she was. She had a doctor's appointment. Nothing serious. "I'm glad to hear that," Judge Caprio said warmly. "I hope she's doing well." Now, the reason that zone is marked for emergency vehicles is because every second counts when someone's life is on the line. On that same day you parked there, at approximately 2:15 in the afternoon, an ambulance had to take an alternate route to the emergency entrance because a vehicle, your vehicle according to the report, was blocking the most direct path. That ambulance was carrying a 9-year-old girl named Sophie Martinez, who had suffered a severe allergic reaction at school. If you're watching this and thinking Marcus is about to show remorse, drop a comment below. Because what he does next will shock you. That's not my problem, Marcus said, his voice dismissive. How am I supposed to know an ambulance is coming? I can't predict the future. Besides, they got there eventually, right? So what's the big? Mr. Richardson, please let me finish. Judge Caprio's voice had an edge now, subtle but unmistakable. Sophie Martinez spent 43 extra seconds in that ambulance because of the detour. Those 43 seconds, according to the attending physician Dr. James Wu, made the difference between a routine treatment and a life-threatening crisis. Sophie stopped breathing for 22 seconds. She's fine now, thankfully. But her parents, Maria and Carlos Martinez, are in this courtroom today. Every head in the courtroom turned. In the third row, a woman in her mid-30s with kind eyes and worry lines on her face sat next to a man in a construction worker's uniform. Maria Martinez was crying quietly. Carlos had his arm around her, his jaw clenched tight. Marcus glanced back at them, then turned to face the judge again. His expression hadn't changed. Okay, but I didn't know that was going to happen. You can't blame me for something I didn't. I'm not blaming you for Sophie's allergic reaction, Judge Caprio said. I'm explaining why these parking laws exist. They're not arbitrary rules designed to generate revenue. They protect lives. Now let's move to the second violation. October 8th, outside the Riverside Senior Center, you parked blocking a wheelchair accessibility ramp. According to the citation, your vehicle was there for 45 minutes. Can you explain? Here we go again. Marcus interrupted for the third time. Look, Judge, or Your Honor, or whatever I'm supposed to call you. I parked there because there were no other spots. None. I circled that block 4 times. I had a business meeting 3 blocks away. I was already running late, and I saw that spot, and I took it. I didn't see any wheelchairs trying to use it while I was gone, so again, no harm, no foul, right? Quote, Patricia Chen looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. She'd warned Marcus about this. She'd explained that Judge Caprio was famous for his compassion, but that compassion was rooted in mutual respect. Disrespect him, disrespect the process, and things would go very differently. Hit the like button right now if you think Marcus is digging his own grave, because you have no idea how deep this hole's about to get. Mr. Richardson, Judge Caprio said, and now his voice carried a weight that made even the court officers stand a little straighter. During those 45 minutes your vehicle blocked that ramp, 3 people couldn't access the senior center. One was 87-year-old Robert Chen, no relation to your attorney, who has advanced Parkinson's disease and uses a motorized wheelchair. He had a physical therapy appointment that day. It was his first appointment after a fall that had hospitalized him for 2 weeks. He was terrified to be going out again, but his daughter Angela had convinced him to try. When they arrived and couldn't access the ramp, Robert had what his doctor later described as a severe anxiety attack. He hasn't left his house since that day. That was 7 weeks ago. The courtroom was absolutely silent. You could hear the heating system humming, someone's cell phone vibrating in their pocket, the scratch of a court reporter's pen. The second person was Margaret O'Neill, 69 years old, recent double knee replacement surgery. The third was James Watkins, a 74-year-old veteran who lost his left leg in Vietnam. All 3 had to be taken to alternative entrances, adding 15 to 20 minutes to their journeys. Mr. Watkins missed his lunch program that day. For many of our seniors, Mr. Richardson, that lunch program is the only nutritious meal they eat all day and the only social contact they have all week. Marcus shifted his weight from one foot to the other. For the first time, he looked uncomfortable. But when he opened his mouth, what came out wasn't an apology. Okay, that's sad and everything, but you're acting like I'm some kind of criminal. These are parking tickets. Parking tickets. I'm not a murderer. I'm not a thief. I made some parking mistakes. Can we please just— You're right, Judge Caprio interrupted him. It was the first time the judge had interrupted Marcus, and it got everyone's attention. You're not a criminal. You're here in civil court, not criminal court. But you keep saying these are just parking tickets, as if that makes the impact of your choices less real. Let me ask you something, Mr. Richardson. What do you do for work? Quote. Marcus hesitated. I'm in sales. What kind of sales? Quote. Medical devices. I sell equipment to hospitals and clinics. Judge Caprio's eyebrows went up. So you work in healthcare. You know firsthand how important hospital operations are. You understand that when an ambulance can't access an emergency bay efficiently, lives are at risk. Is that fair to say? Quote. I mean, yeah, I guess, but... And you've been doing this work for how long? Quote. 6 years. 6 years. So you're successful in your field. That's a competitive industry. You must be good at what you do. Marcus's chest puffed out slightly. I'm one of the top performers in my region. I'm sure you are, Judge Caprio said. So tell me, Mr. Richardson, when you're trying to close a deal with a hospital administrator and they keep interrupting you, not letting you finish your presentations, dismissing your products as just medical devices, how does that make you feel? Quote. Drop a comment if you see where Judge Caprio is going with this. This is masterful. Subscribe if you appreciate this level of wisdom. Marcus opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. That's different. How is it different? Quote. Because I'm trying to help people with my work. I'm trying to provide equipment that saves lives. And I'm trying to help people with my work, Judge Caprio said quietly. I'm trying to maintain a society where rules exist to protect everyone, especially the most vulnerable. You've interrupted me 4 times now, Mr. Richardson. 4 times I've tried to explain the real-world consequences of these violations, and 4 times you've dismissed me, dismissed the people who were harmed, and dismissed the importance of this process. So I'm going to ask you directly, do you think you're above these laws? Do you think your time, your convenience, your business meetings are more important than a 9-year-old girl's ability to breathe, or an 87-year-old man's mental health, or a veteran's access to food? Quote. The courtroom held its collective breath. This was the moment. Everyone who'd come to see the kind, grandfatherly Judge Caprio dispense compassionate justice was seeing a different side of him now. Not cruel, not angry, but firm, unwavering. This was the side of justice that required accountability. Marcus's face flushed red. You're twisting my words. I never said any of that. You're making me sound like some kind of monster, when all I did was park in some spots that maybe weren't the best spots to park in. You want me to say, I'm sorry? Fine, I'm sorry. There, can I pay my fines and go now? Quote. We're not done yet, Judge Caprio said. We still have 5 more violations to discuss. The 3rd ticket was issued on October 29th. You parked in a fire lane outside Elmwood Elementary School during afternoon pickup time. The citation indicates you were there for 12 minutes. School security asked you to move your vehicle twice, and you, according to the report filed by Security Officer Thomas Brennan, you told him, and I quote, "Write me a ticket then, because I'm not moving until my meeting is done." Quote. Marcus rolled his eyes. I was on a conference call, a really important call. I was closing a $60,000 deal. I couldn't just hang up and move my car. And again, nothing bad happened. No fire trucks came, no kids got hurt. Why are we making a federal case out of... Mr. Richardson? Judge Caprio's voice rose for the first time, and it silenced Marcus immediately. That is your 5th interruption. I'm going to finish this statement, and you're going to listen. On that day, October 29th, while you were parked in that fire lane closing your $60,000 deal, there was a fire drill scheduled for 2:30 p.m. It wasn't an emergency, thank God, but it was a required safety drill that had been planned for weeks. Because your vehicle was blocking the designated emergency exit route, the school had to alter the drill procedure. 347 children, aged 5 to 11, had to be rerouted through a different exit. In the confusion, a 7-year-old boy named Daniel Kim got separated from his class. He has autism and severe anxiety disorder. It took teachers 19 minutes to locate him. He was found in a bathroom stall, nonverbal, rocking back and forth, terrified. His mother, Susan Kim, is also here today. Share this video right now with someone who thinks rules don't apply to them. What happens next will blow your mind. In the gallery, a petite Asian woman in nurse's scrubs raised her hand slightly. Her eyes were red. Judge Caprio nodded at her, and she stood up, her voice shaking. "My son still has nightmares," Susan Kim said. "He won't use the bathroom at school anymore. He holds it all day until he gets home, even though his pediatrician says that's causing medical issues. He's in therapy twice a week now. All because a fire drill that was supposed to teach him safety became the most traumatic experience of his second-grade year." Marcus turned to look at her. For the first time, something flickered across his face that might have been shame. But when he turned back to Judge Caprio, his defensive armor was back in place. "That's not fair," he said, his voice rising. "You can't put that kid's trauma on me. I didn't know there was going to be a fire drill. I didn't know some kid was going to freak out. How is that my fault? You're blaming me for things I had no control over, things I couldn't possibly have predicted. This is insane. You're acting like I'm responsible for every random thing that happened near where I parked my car." "You're responsible for the choices you make," Judge Caprio said. "And the choice you made was to ignore a clearly posted fire lane sign, ignore 2 direct requests from a security officer, and prioritize your business call over the safety protocols of an elementary school. Those were your choices. The consequences of those choices affected real people. That's not me being unfair. That's called cause and effect." "Whatever," Marcus muttered. "Can we just get to the fine amount so I can pay and leave?" Quote, That was interruption number 6. Patricia Chen put her head in her hands. Judge Caprio took off his reading glasses and set them on the bench. When he spoke again, his voice was softer, but somehow more powerful. "Mr. Richardson, I've been doing this job for 40 years. I've seen thousands of people come through that door. Some made honest mistakes. Some had terrible circumstances. Some were genuinely struggling to survive and made choices out of desperation. I've shown compassion to people who couldn't afford to pay their fines. I've dismissed tickets for people who had legitimate emergencies. I've given second chances, third chances, fourth chances to people who showed remorse, who took accountability, who demonstrated that they understood the impact of their actions. But you know what I've never had in 4 decades? I've never had someone stand in my courtroom and show such complete disregard, not just for the law, but for basic human empathy. You've interrupted me 6 times. You've dismissed every person harmed by your actions. You've shown 0 remorse. So now we're going to go through the rest of these violations, and you're going to stay silent until I ask you a direct question. Do you understand?" Quote, Marcus's jaw clenched. "Yes." "Yes what?" Quote, "Yes, Your Honor." "Thank you. Violation 4, November 14th. Fire lane outside the West Side Community Center during a blood drive. Your vehicle blocked emergency access for 53 minutes. Violation 5, November 30th. Handicap parking space outside the public library. You had no handicap placard or plates. When library staff member Jennifer Torres asked you to move, you told her you'd only be 15 minutes and walked away. You were actually gone for an hour and 20 minutes. During that time, 3 vehicles with legitimate handicapped parking needs had to find alternative parking or leave. One of those vehicles belonged to Patricia Morton, a 72-year-old woman with severe rheumatoid arthritis who had come to the library to return books for her homebound husband. She drove home without being able to return the books. The late fees, which on a fixed Social Security income meant something to her, were $17. Judge Caprio paused and looked at a document. "I have a letter here from Mrs. Morton. Would you like me to read it?" Quote, Marcus said nothing. "I'll take that as a yes." "Dear Judge Caprio, I'm writing about the man who parked in the handicapped spot on November 30th. I'm not writing because I'm angry, though I was that day. I'm writing because I want you to know that small acts of selfishness create ripples we can't always see. That $17 in late fees meant I had to skip my arthritis medication refill for 3 days. By the time I could afford both the fees and the medication, my hands had swollen so badly I couldn't hold a fork. My husband, who has dementia, couldn't understand why I was crying at dinner. He kept asking if he'd done something wrong. That broke my heart more than the pain in my hands. I don't know if the man who parked there will ever read this, but if he does, I want him to know that I forgive him. I just hope he learns that we're all connected. and our choices matter more than we think. Quote, like this video if you believe Patricia Morton is a better person than most of us could ever hope to be. The compassion in that letter is incredible. The courtroom was utterly silent. Several people were crying. Maria Martinez, Susan, Kim. A court officer in the back with 30 years on the job who thought he'd seen everything. Even Patricia Chen had tears in her eyes. Marcus was staring at the floor. His hands were shaking slightly. Violation 6. Judge Caprio continued. December 18th, you parked in a loading zone outside St. Mary's Church during a funeral service. The hearse couldn't access the entrance. The pallbearers had to carry the casket an additional 40 yards in freezing rain. The deceased was Father Michael O'Brien, who had served that parish for 38 years. He married couples, baptized babies, counseled families through their darkest hours. At his funeral, the 6 men in their 60s and 70s carried his casket through the rain because you needed a convenient parking spot. Several people took photos. Those photos made the local news. The headline was, "Community mourns beloved priest. Despite parking obstacles, your license plate is visible in those photos." Marcus's face had gone pale. "I didn't know it was a funeral. The parking lot was full. I just saw a spot." That's interruption number 7, Judge Caprio said, and violation 7. January 12th. 3 weeks ago. Handicapped spot outside Rhode Island Hospital. Again. No placard. This time, the vehicle that needed that spot belonged to Richard and Catherine Walsh. They were bringing their 6-year-old daughter Emma to the pediatric oncology unit for her chemotherapy treatment. Emma has acute lymphoblastic leukemia. She's been in treatment for 11 months. On good days, she can walk short distances. On bad days, she needs a wheelchair. January 12th was a bad day. It was also 17 degrees outside, with a wind chill of 3 degrees. Because you were parked in the handicapped spot they needed, Richard had to drop Catherine and Emma at the entrance, then park in a garage 4 blocks away. By the time he walked back to the hospital, in the bitter cold, trying to hurry because he didn't want to miss being with his daughter during the treatment, he had frostbite on 3 fingers of his left hand. Judge Caprio held up another letter. This one is from Emma Walsh. She's 6 years old, so it's in crayon, and the spelling isn't perfect. It says, "Dear Judge Caprio, my daddy's fingers got hurt because a man took our parking spot. My daddy always parks in those spots so I don't have to walk far, because walking makes me tired. On that day I was really cold waiting for daddy. I was cold and I threw up before we even got to the doctor. Mommy says the man probably didn't know I was sick. But I have a sign on our car that shows a wheelchair, and Daddy says that means we really need that spot. I hope the man says sorry. Love, Emma." There's a drawing at the bottom of her family holding hands. Quote, "If you're not emotional right now, check your pulse. Comment below if you think Marcus is finally understanding what he's done. Subscribe if you believe in accountability." Marcus's hands were definitely shaking now. He was still staring at the floor, but his jaw was trembling too. The defensive posture, the arrogance, the dismissive attitude. It was all cracking. "Your Honor," Patricia Chen stood up, her voice gentle but firm. "May I have a moment to consult with my client?" Quote, "You may not," Judge Caprio said, not unkindly, "because Mr. Richardson has something he wants to say. Don't you, Mr. Richardson?" Quote. Marcus looked up. His eyes were red. When he spoke, his voice was hoarse. I didn't. I never thought." "You never thought about the consequences," Judge Caprio finished. "You never thought about who might be affected. You never thought about anyone but yourself. And when given multiple opportunities in this courtroom to reflect on that, you interrupted me 7 times, dismissed the concerns of every single person harmed by your actions, and showed contempt for this process. So here's what's going to happen. For these 7 violations, the total fines amount to $840. But the law allows me to consider aggravating factors, repeat violations, patterns of behavior, disregard for public safety, contempt of court. Taking all of those into consideration, I'm increasing your fines to the maximum penalty allowed, $4,500. Additionally, I'm ordering you to perform 200 hours of community service. 100 hours will be spent volunteering at Rhode Island Hospital in patient transport, helping people get from their vehicles to the building, including from handicapped parking spaces. 50 hours will be at the Riverside Senior Center, assisting with wheelchair accessibility and mobility support. And 50 hours will be at Elmwood Elementary School, helping with pickup and drop-off, traffic management, and safety protocols. The gallery gasped. $4,500. 200 hours. This was unprecedented. Even for Judge Caprio, known for his compassion, this was a serious sentence for parking violations. Marcus's mouth fell open. 4,000. Are you kidding me? That's insane. You can't. That's interruption number 8, Judge Caprio said, his voice steel. And I'm not finished. Furthermore, your driver's license is suspended for 90 days. You will not operate a vehicle during that time. You will take public transportation like the people whose lives you've made more difficult with your parking choices. You'll experience what it's like when buses run late, when you have to walk 3 blocks in the cold, when convenience isn't something you can take for granted. And finally, you will write personal letters of apology to every single person I mentioned today. Sophie Martinez, Robert Chen, Margaret O'Neill, James Watkins, Daniel Kim, Patricia Morton, the family of Father Michael O'Brien, and Emma Walsh. Those letters will be sincere, specific, and subject to my approval before you can complete your sentence. Do you understand? Quote, Marcus was shaking his head, his face flushed with anger again. This is ridiculous. This is abuse of power. You're punishing me because I didn't kiss your ass like everyone else in here. You're letting your ego. That's interruption number 9, Judge Caprio said. One more and I'll hold you in contempt, which means jail time. Is that what you want, Mr. Richardson? Quote, Patricia Chen grabbed Marcus's arm, squeezing hard, her eyes pleading with him to stop talking. For a moment, it seemed like he might. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. And then he said it. You know what? You're just a small-town judge in a small-town court who got lucky with some viral videos. You think you're some kind of hero, but you're just an old man on a power trip. These people, he gestured at the gallery, they don't actually care about justice. They're here for entertainment. You're a performance. This whole thing is a performance. And I'm not going to stand here and be your villain so you can feel good about yourself. So do whatever you want. Hold me in contempt. I don't care. I'll appeal all of this. I'll have a real judge in a real court throw out every single. Mr. Richardson, Judge Caprio's voice cut through the tirade like a blade. That's interruption number 10. Bailiff, take Mr. Richardson into custody for contempt of court. 30 days in the adult correctional institutions. Additionally, his fines are now increased to the absolute maximum, $6,000. Community service increased to 300 hours. License suspension increased to 180 days, 6 months, and he will complete an anger management program before any of these penalties can be satisfied. We're adjourned on this matter. The gavel came down. The sound echoed through the courtroom like thunder. Share this video immediately if you think Marcus just made the worst mistake of his life. This story is far from over. 2 court officers moved toward Marcus. His face had gone from red to white. The reality of what had just happened was sinking in. 30 days in jail, $6,000, 300 hours, 6 months without a license. His job, his sales job that required him to drive to hospitals and clinics across the state, was gone. His career was over. Wait, Marcus said, his voice cracking. Wait, please, Your Honor, But Judge Caprio had already stood up. He was gathering his papers, talking quietly to his grandson. The session was over. Patricia Chen was at Marcus's side, speaking urgently in his ear, but he wasn't listening. He was watching Judge Caprio walk toward his chambers, watching his life fall apart, watching the consequences of his choices crystallize in real time. The court officers reached him. Sir, we need you to come with us. Please, Marcus said again, louder now. Your Honor, please. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry." Quote, Judge Caprio paused at the door to his chambers. He didn't turn around. "I didn't mean it." Marcus's voice was desperate now, breaking. "I didn't mean any of it. Please, please, I'm sorry. I'll do whatever you want. I'll write the letters. I'll do the community service. I'll apologize to everyone. Please don't send me to jail. Please. I have a daughter. I have a 3-year-old daughter, and if I go to jail, I'll lose my job, and I won't be able to. Please." The courtroom was frozen. Everyone was watching Judge Caprio's back, waiting to see if he would turn around, if the famous compassion would emerge, if there would be mercy for a man who had shown none. Judge Caprio stood there for what felt like an eternity. 10 seconds, 20, 30. Then he turned around. He walked back to the bench slowly. Every eye in the room followed him. He sat down, put his reading glasses back on, and looked at Marcus Richardson. Really looked at him. Not at the arrogant man who had walked in an hour ago. At the broken person standing there now, tears streaming down his face, his entire life hanging in the balance. "You have a daughter," Judge Caprio said quietly. "Yes." Marcus could barely get the word out. "Lily, she's 3. She's everything to me." Quote, "What does Lily think her daddy does for work?" Quote, Marcus swallowed hard. "She thinks I help sick people. She doesn't understand medical devices or sales. She just knows I work at hospitals, and she thinks that means I help people feel better. And what kind of man do you want Lily to think her father is?" Quote, drop a comment right now about what you would say if Judge Caprio asked you this question. Hit subscribe, because what happens next will restore your faith in humanity. Marcus was crying openly now, not trying to hide it. "A good man. I want her to think I'm a good man. I want her to be proud of me. I don't want her to know that her dad went to jail because he was too arrogant and stupid to shut his mouth and show basic respect to people." Then let me ask you something, Mr. Richardson. In the last hour, you've heard stories about 7 different situations where your choices caused real harm to real people. A 9-year-old girl who couldn't breathe. An 87-year-old man who's now afraid to leave his house. A 7-year-old boy with autism who was traumatized during a fire drill. A 72-year-old woman who couldn't afford her arthritis medication. 6 men who had to carry their beloved priest's casket through freezing rain. A father who got frostbite trying to get to his daughter's cancer treatment. Every single one of those people has been affected by your actions. So here's my question. If someone had treated Lily the way you've treated these people, if someone had made her suffer, made her scared, made her hurt, and then dismissed it as no big deal, how would you feel? Quote, Marcus's knees actually buckled. The court officers moved to steady him. His whole body was shaking with sobs now. "I would want to kill them," he whispered. "If anyone hurt my daughter and didn't care, I would. I can't even think about it. I would do anything to protect her. Anything." So you understand that every person I mentioned today is someone's daughter, someone's father, someone's child. They're all someone's Lily. They all matter to someone the way Lily matters to you. "Yes," Marcus's voice was barely audible. "Yes, Your Honor, I understand. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Judge Caprio took off his glasses again. He looked at Patricia Chen. "Ms. Chen, what's your assessment of your client's current state of mind compared to when we started this hearing?" Quote, Patricia Chen stood. "Your Honor, I believe Mr. Richardson is experiencing genuine remorse for the first time. I've been practicing law for 14 years, and I've represented hundreds of clients. I've seen a lot of fake apologies. This doesn't look like one of those." "I agree," Judge Caprio said. He looked at Marcus again. "Mr. Richardson, I'm going to tell you something I don't say very often. You made me angrier today than almost any defendant I've seen in 40 years. Not because of the parking violations themselves, but because of your complete lack of empathy, your inability to see beyond yourself, your dismissal of real human suffering. That anger is why I gave you the maximum sentence. But you know what? I've also learned something in 40 years. People can change. Not everyone, not even most people, but some people, when they hit rock bottom, when they finally see themselves clearly, they can change. So here's what I'm going to do." The courtroom held its breath. This was the moment. "I'm going to suspend your jail sentence." A collective exhale. Marcus's knees buckled again. But, Judge Caprio held up his hand, this is not me being soft. This is not me letting you off easy. This is me giving you one chance, one single chance, to prove that the man crying in my courtroom right now is real and not just scared of consequences. Here are the new terms. The $6,000 in fines stands. Non-negotiable. You will pay that. The 300 hours of community service stands. You will complete every single hour. The 6-month license suspension stands. You will not drive. The anger management program stands. You will complete it. And the letters of apology stand. You will write them, and they will be sincere, and I will read every one. Marcus was nodding frantically. Yes, Your Honor. Yes, I'll do all of it. I promise. I'm not finished. The jail sentence is suspended, but it's not dismissed. That means if you fail to complete any part of this sentence, if you miss one community service hour, if you drive once during your suspension, if you write letters that aren't genuine, if you show up to anger management and don't take it seriously, you'll serve the full 30 days. Plus, I'm adding a condition. For the next 2 years, you will check in with this court once a month. You'll bring documentation of your community service hours. You'll bring letters from the organizations where you volunteer confirming you've been helpful, respectful, and reliable. You'll show proof of employment and that you're supporting your daughter. And you'll report on how you're applying the lessons from your anger management program. Miss one check-in, and you serve the 30 days. Lie to me once, and you serve the 30 days. Show me that this moment in my courtroom was just you being scared, rather than actually learning something, and you'll serve the 30 days. Do you understand? Quote, Yes, Your Honor. I understand. Thank you. Thank you so much. Quote, Like this video if you're feeling emotional right now. Comment below if you believe second chances can change lives. This is why Judge Caprio is beloved by millions. Don't thank me yet, Judge Caprio said. You have a long road ahead of you. $6,000 is a lot of money. 300 hours is a lot of time. 6 months without a car is going to be incredibly difficult. But here's the thing, Mr. Richardson. Every hour you spend helping patients at the hospital, you'll think about Sophie Martinez struggling to breathe in that ambulance. Every hour you spend at the senior center helping people in wheelchairs, you'll think about Robert Chen having that anxiety attack. Every hour at that elementary school, you'll think about Daniel Kim terrified and alone in that bathroom. Those hours aren't just punishment. They're education. They're going to teach you what your parents should have taught you and what you apparently never learned. That we live in a society, and in a society, we take care of each other. We consider each other. We make small sacrifices of our convenience for the greater good. He paused, looking at Marcus with those wise, penetrating eyes. You told me earlier that I'm just an old man on a power trip, that this courtroom is just entertainment. You're wrong. This courtroom is a mirror. It shows people who they really are. And sometimes, if they're brave enough to look at their reflection and humble enough to admit they don't like what they see, they get the chance to change. That's what I'm offering you. That mirror, that chance. What you do with it is up to you. Marcus nodded, wiping his eyes. I won't let you down, Your Honor. I promise. I'll do everything you said. I'll be better. I'll be the man my daughter thinks I am. I hope so, Judge Caprio said, because here's the final thing I want you to understand. The people you harmed with your parking violations, they're all in this courtroom today. They took time out of their lives to be here. They deserve to hear directly from you. So before you leave, you're going to turn around and face them, and you're going to apologize. Not to me, to them. Marcus turned slowly. Maria Martinez and Carlos, Sophie's parents, Susan Kim, Daniel's mother, the representative from the senior center who'd come to speak about Robert Chen, Margaret O'Neill, and James Watkins, the priest who'd known Father Michael O'Brien, and Richard Walsh, Emma's father, whose fingers were still bandaged from the frostbite. Looking at them, really looking at them for the first time, Marcus broke down completely. I'm so sorry, he said, his voice choked with tears. I'm so sorry to all of you. Mrs. Martinez, Mr. Martinez, Sophie, your daughter, I'm so sorry. I never thought about what could happen. I was selfish and careless, and I could have— He couldn't finish the sentence. Mrs. Kim, I'm sorry about Daniel. I'm sorry he was scared. I have a daughter, and if anyone made her feel like that, I would. I'm just so sorry. Mr. Chen, Mrs. O'Neill, Mr. Watkins, I'm sorry for making your lives harder. You deserve better. Father O'Brien deserved better. Mrs. Morton, I'm sorry about your medication and your husband and the $17 that I made into such a big problem for you. And Mr. Walsh. Marcus looked at Richard Walsh, at his bandaged fingers. Emma's letter said she threw up from the cold. Your daughter is fighting cancer, and I made one of her worst days even worse because I wanted a convenient parking spot. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know sorry doesn't fix anything. I know it doesn't undo what happened. But I promise you, I'm going to be better. I'm going to spend those 300 hours helping people like you, people I should have been considering all along. And I'm going to raise my daughter to be better than I was. I promise. Share this with someone who needs to see what real accountability looks like. This is powerful. Maria Martinez stood up. She walked down the aisle slowly, her husband beside her. Marcus tensed, unsure what was coming. When she reached him, she did something nobody expected. She hugged him. You scared me so badly that day, she said quietly. I thought I was going to lose my daughter. But she's okay. And I believe you're sorry. I believe you'll be better. We all make mistakes. What matters is what we do after. Marcus hugged her back, sobbing. Thank you. Thank you for your grace. I don't deserve it. Quote, None of us deserve grace, she said. That's what makes it grace. One by one, several others came forward. Susan Kim shook his hand. Richard Walsh nodded at him, a gesture of acknowledgement, if not forgiveness. The priest, who'd represented Father O'Brien's parish, gave him a prayer card and told him he'd pray for his transformation. Not everyone came forward. Some remained seated, their arms crossed, their expressions skeptical. They'd heard apologies before. They'd been hurt before. Their forgiveness wouldn't come so easily, and that was their right. But even their presence in the courtroom, bearing witness, demanding accountability, was part of the process. Judge Caprio watched it all with quiet satisfaction. This was justice. Not just punishment, not just mercy, but accountability with a path to redemption. Consequences paired with opportunity, the perfect balance he'd been trying to achieve for 4 decades. Mr. Richardson, he said when the moment had passed and Marcus was back at the defense table. This court will see you back here on April 7th for your first check-in, 1 month from today. I expect to see documentation of at least 30 hours of community service completed by then, proof of enrollment in anger management, and at least 2 of the apology letters finished. If you have any questions about the requirements, Ms. Chen will guide you. If you have any difficulties, legitimate difficulties, not excuses, you can petition the court. But if you simply don't do the work, there will be no third chances. Do you understand? Quote, Yes, Your Honor, I'll be here. I'll have everything done. Quote, Good, then we're adjourned, and Mr. Richardson, don't make me regret this. I won't, Your Honor, I promise. I won't. The gavel came down one final time. Court officers approached Marcus, but this time it wasn't to take him into custody. It was to hand him his paperwork, to explain the logistics of his sentence, to schedule his first community service hours. Patricia Chen stood beside him, her relief palpable. She'd saved her client from jail, but more importantly, she'd witnessed something rare and precious, a genuine turning point. As people filed out of the courtroom, the buzz of conversation was electric. Everyone knew they'd witnessed something special. The viral video team was already uploading footage. Within hours, clips of the hearing would be spreading across social media. The dramatic escalation, the maximum sentence, the crushing moment of realization. And then the unexpected mercy. Millions would watch. Millions would debate whether Judge Caprio had been too harsh or too lenient, whether Marcus deserved his second chance, whether the punishment fit the crimes. But they wouldn't know the rest of the story. They wouldn't know what happened after the cameras stopped rolling, after the courtroom emptied, after Marcus Richardson walked out into the cold March afternoon with his entire life transformed. Hit that subscribe button if you want to know what happened to Marcus. Comment below with your prediction. And make sure you watch until the very end because the update will shock you. 4 weeks later, April 7th, 2023. Marcus Richardson's first check-in. When he walked into the courtroom this time, he looked different. The designer leather jacket was gone, replaced by a simple pea coat from Target. The expensive sneakers were replaced with practical boots worn from walking, lots of walking without a car. His hair was different too, less styled, more natural. But the biggest change was in his face. The arrogance was gone. In its place was something quieter, humility, maybe, or exhaustion, or both. He carried a folder thick with documents. Patricia Chen walked beside him, smiling. Judge Caprio looked up from the bench. "Mr. Richardson, welcome back. How are you doing?" Quote, I'm hanging in there, Your Honor. It's been a challenging month." "I imagine it has. Let's go through your documentation. Community service hours?" Quote, Marcus opened his folder. 42 hours completed. I have sign-off sheets from Rhode Island Hospital, the Riverside Senior Center, and Elmwood Elementary. I also have letters from supervisors at each location. He handed the papers to the bailiff, who delivered them to Judge Caprio. The judge read silently for a moment, his expression neutral. Then, something shifted. His eyebrows rose slightly. "Mr. Richardson, this letter from Janet Kowalski at Rhode Island Hospital says you've been, quote, exceptionally dedicated and compassionate with patients. She mentions that you spent an extra 3 hours beyond your required service, sitting with an elderly patient who was frightened before surgery because his family couldn't be there due to COVID restrictions. Is that true?" Quote. Marcus nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. His name was George. He reminded me of my grandfather. He was shaking, and the nurses were all so busy, and I couldn't leave him alone like that. So I stayed and talked to him about his grandchildren until they came to take him to the OR. That's not required as part of your sentence." "I know, but it was the right thing to do." Judge Caprio's expression softened. Yes, it was. What about anger management? Have you enrolled?" Quote, "Yes, Your Honor. I'm attending sessions twice a week at the Providence Counseling Center. Here's the documentation from my counselor, Dr. Lisa Chen. Again, no relation to my attorney. She's assigned me homework about identifying triggers and developing emotional regulation strategies. It's been really hard, actually. I've learned a lot about myself that I didn't want to know. But I think that's the point. It is the point. Growth is uncomfortable. What about the apology letters?" Quote, Marcus pulled out several handwritten pages. "I've completed 4 letters so far. 1 to Sophie Martinez's parents, 1 to Susan Kim about Daniel, 1 to Patricia Morton, and 1 to Emma Walsh's family. I wrote drafts first, but these are the final versions. They're handwritten because typed letters felt too impersonal. I tried to be specific about what I did wrong, how it affected them, and what I'm doing differently now. I haven't sent them yet because you said you wanted to approve them first." Judge Caprio took the letters and began reading. The courtroom was quiet. There were fewer people today. No film crew, no viral audience, just regular court business. But a few people in the gallery were watching closely, invested in Marcus's journey. After several minutes, Judge Caprio looked up. "Mr. Richardson, these are good. These are really good. They're sincere, specific, and accountable. I particularly appreciate that in the letter to the Martinez family, you didn't try to explain or excuse your behavior. You just took responsibility. That's rare. I've had a lot of time to think, Your Honor. When you don't have a car, bus rides give you a lot of thinking time. And I've been thinking about what you said about Lily, about what kind of man I want her to think I am. I realized I was teaching her terrible things without meaning to. Every time I rushed, every time I took shortcuts, every time I acted like rules were for other people. She was watching. Kids absorb everything. I don't want her to grow up thinking that's okay. Like this video if Marcus is giving you hope. Comment if you believe people can truly change. This is getting good. How is Lily handling your license suspension? Judge Caprio asked. That must be affecting her too. Quote, It is. I can't drive her to daycare anymore. My ex-wife, Lily's mom and I aren't together, has had to adjust her schedule. That's been a strain. But you know what? Lily and I take the bus together now 3 mornings a week. At first I was embarrassed. The great medical device salesman riding the city bus with his toddler. But Lily loves it. She waves at other passengers. She counts the stops. She's learning that public transportation is normal, that not everyone has a car, that we share space with our community. She's learning things I never taught her when I was driving her in my BMW with the parking tickets piling up. Judge Caprio smiled. It was his first full smile of the hearing. That's a beautiful perspective, Mr. Richardson. How's your employment situation? I know losing your license must have impacted your sales job. Marcus's expression clouded. I lost that job. My territory required daily driving to multiple hospitals and clinics. Without a license, I couldn't do it. They let me go 2 weeks ago. I'm sorry to hear that. What are you doing for income? Quote, I found a position at a medical supply company doing inside sales, phone and email sales from an office. It's a 40% pay cut, and there's no commission structure like my old job, so my earning potential is much lower. Money's really tight. The $6,000 fine is going to take me months to pay off. I've had to move to a cheaper apartment. I've had to cut back on everything. But I'm managing. And honestly, Your Honor, I needed this. I was making good money before, but I was a terrible person. I'd rather be broke and decent than wealthy and selfish. The courtroom was absolutely silent. Even the court reporter had stopped typing for a moment, just listening. Judge Caprio leaned forward. Mr. Richardson, I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest. Are you doing all of this? The extra hours, the sincere letters, the attitude adjustment, because you're scared of going to jail, or because you genuinely want to be different? Quote, Marcus thought for a long moment before answering. A month ago, if you'd asked me that, I would have said I was scared of jail, and that was true. I was terrified. But something happened 2 weeks ago that changed my answer. I was at the senior center, helping set up for their lunch program. I was moving chairs, arranging tables. Nothing special. And this woman, Mrs. Chen, Robert Chen's daughter, the man I told you about who hasn't left his house since my car blocked the ramp. She was there visiting some of the other residents. She recognized me from court. I thought she was going to yell at me, maybe throw me out. Instead, she asked if I had a minute to talk. He paused, his eyes getting distant as he remembered. She told me her father hasn't been the same since that day. He's depressed. He's given up. He won't even try to go out anymore. She's tried everything. Therapy, medication, encouragement. Nothing works. And she looked at me, and I thought she was going to blame me, to tell me I'd destroyed her father's life. But instead, she asked if I would visit him. She said maybe if he saw me doing better, being better, it might help him believe people can change. She said her father needs hope. Marcus's voice cracked. I went to visit him last Tuesday. I brought flowers and this wooden puzzle I thought he might like. He wouldn't really look at me at first, but I sat there and I told him I was sorry. I told him about my community service, and about Lily, and about losing my job. I told him about taking the bus and learning to see people differently. And he listened. He didn't say much, but he listened. When I left, his daughter walked me out, and she was crying. She said it was the most engaged her father had been in 2 months. Quote, drop a comment if this story is hitting you in the heart. Subscribe if you want to see more stories about redemption and second chances. I'm going back to visit him again this week, Marcus continued. Not for community service hours, not because anyone's making me, because I want to, because maybe I can help fix something I broke. So to answer your question, Your Honor, am I doing this because I'm scared of jail? Maybe that's how it started. But now I'm doing it because I'm scared of being the person I was. I'm doing it because I met Sophie's mom, and she hugged me, even though I put her daughter in danger. I'm doing it because a 72-year-old woman I hurt wrote that she forgives me. I'm doing it because my 3-year-old daughter thinks I help sick people, and I want that to actually be true. I'm doing it because for the first time in my life, I'm looking at myself clearly, and I want to be someone I can respect. Judge Caprio took off his reading glasses and wiped his eyes. He wasn't crying exactly, but he was moved. After 40 years on the bench, that was rare. Mr. Richardson, he said quietly, when you walked into my courtroom 4 weeks ago, I saw a man who was lost. Arrogant, yes. Disrespectful, absolutely. But underneath all that, I saw someone who had disconnected from his own humanity. Someone who had stopped seeing other people as real. Do you know why I gave you the maximum sentence? Quote, because I deserved it? Quote, No, I mean, yes, you deserved consequences. But that's not why I gave you the maximum. I gave it to you because I hoped that the shock of hitting rock bottom might crack open that shell you'd built around yourself. Might force you to actually feel something. Might reconnect you to empathy. Most people, when I do that, they just get angry. They serve their sentence resentfully, minimally, checking boxes so they can move on. But every once in a while, someone truly wakes up. Someone sees themselves clearly for the first time and decides to change. Mr. Richardson, you're that someone. Marcus was crying now. Not the desperate, terrified crying from a month ago. Something different. Relief, maybe. Or gratitude. Or the profound emotional release of being seen and acknowledged. Your documentation is excellent, Judge Caprio continued. Your letters are approved. Send them. Your community service is ahead of schedule. Your anger management participation is exemplary. And your attitude, your genuine transformation is remarkable. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm reducing your check-ins from monthly to quarterly. You'll come back in July, then October, then January. If you maintain this trajectory, I'll consider ending your probation early. But Mr. Richardson, don't let success make you complacent. The moment you think you've changed enough, that's when you risk sliding backward. Real transformation is a lifelong commitment, not a one-time event. I understand, Your Honor. Thank you. Thank you for seeing something in me that I didn't see in myself. Quote, I didn't see it, Judge Caprio said with a slight smile. I hoped for it. You're the one who made it real. Now go. Continue your work. Visit Robert Chen. Be the father Lily deserves. Build a life you're proud of. And I'll see you in July. Marcus nodded, gathering his papers. As he turned to leave, Judge Caprio called out one more time. Mr. Richardson? One more thing. Marcus turned back. When Lily grows up and she asks you about this time in your life, because she will ask, tell her the truth. Don't hide it. Don't sugarcoat it. Tell her you made terrible choices, faced consequences, and chose to become better. That's a story worth telling. That's a lesson worth teaching. I will, Your Honor. I promise. Share this video with every parent who wants to teach their kids about accountability. This is how we raise the next generation right. 3 months later, July 2023. Marcus Richardson's second check-in was brief. 143 community service hours completed, nearly halfway done. All 7 apology letters sent, with several recipients writing back to acknowledge receipt and, in some cases, offering encouragement. Continued attendance at anger management, with his counselor reporting, quote, exceptional progress and insight. He'd been promoted at his inside sales job, partially recovering his income loss. And he'd visited Robert Chen 8 times, with Robert's daughter reporting that her father had recently agreed to leave the house for a short outing, his first in 5 months. October 2023, check-in number 3, 276 community service hours completed, nearly done. Marcus had started a support group for people completing court-ordered service, helping them stay motivated and process their experiences. He'd reconnected with Patricia Morton, the woman who'd skipped her arthritis medication because of the $17 late fee his parking had caused. He'd helped her set up autopay for her library account and delivered groceries to her twice when her arthritis flared badly. He'd attended Emma Walsh's 6th birthday party at her family's invitation. Emma was in remission, her hair growing back, her smile bright. Richard Walsh's frostbitten fingers had healed, and he'd shaken Marcus's hand with genuine warmth. January 2024, final check-in. Marcus walked into the courtroom with his daughter. Lily was 3.5 now, bright-eyed and curious, holding her father's hand. Patricia Chen walked beside them, smiling broadly. Judge Caprio looked at the little girl, and his expression melted into grandfatherly warmth. And who is this lovely young lady? Quote, this is my daughter, Lily, Marcus said proudly. Lily, this is Judge Caprio. He's the man I told you about. The one who helped Daddy become better. Lily waved shyly. Hi, Judge. Hello, Lily. It's wonderful to meet you. Your daddy talks about you all the time. Marcus presented his final documentation. 327 community service hours, 27 more than required. Completion certificate from anger management with the highest marks his counselor had ever given. Letters of recommendation from supervisors at all 3 of his service locations. A letter from Robert Chen's daughter saying her father had agreed to start attending physical therapy again and credited Marcus's visits with giving him hope. And a final document, proof that Marcus had paid his $6,000 fine in full, 2 weeks ahead of the deadline. Mr. Richardson, Judge Caprio said, reviewing everything, "You have completed every requirement of your sentence. You've exceeded expectations in every category. Your transformation has been documented not just in hours and letters, but in the lives you've touched. The question now is, what do you want to happen with your case?" Quote, "I'd like my license reinstated, Your Honor. It's been 10 months without driving. I've learned what you wanted me to learn. I take public transportation. I walk. I plan ahead. I'm patient. But I'd also like to be able to transport my daughter safely, to respond to emergencies, to have that privilege back. And I understand now that it is a privilege, not a right." Judge Caprio nodded. "Your suspension ends next month anyway, so you'll get your license back then regardless. But I'm going to do something I rarely do. I'm going to reinstate it today, 3 weeks early. You've earned it. Additionally, I'm closing your case. Your probation is complete. The suspended jail sentence is permanently dismissed. As far as this court is concerned, Marcus Richardson, you are a free man with a clean slate. Comment below if you're emotional right now. Like this video if you believe in redemption. What Judge Caprio says next is perfect." Marcus's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for giving me the chance to be better. Thank you for seeing potential in me when I didn't see it in myself." Quote, "You did the work," Judge Caprio said firmly. "I just provided the framework. You're the one who chose to change. Now, Mr. Richardson, I have one final requirement. It's not a legal requirement, so you can refuse, but I'm asking you anyway." Quote, "Anything, Your Honor. What is it?" Quote, "I want you to come back to this courtroom 6 months from now as a volunteer. I want you to talk to defendants who are where you were 10 months ago. I want you to tell your story. I want you to show them that transformation is possible. Will you do that?" Quote, Marcus didn't hesitate. "Yes, Your Honor. Absolutely yes." "Good. Then we're done here. Go live your life, Mr. Richardson. Be the father Lily deserves. Be the man you were always capable of being. And know that everyone in this courtroom is proud of you." As Marcus gathered his papers, Lily tugged on his sleeve. "Daddy, can we get ice cream now?" Quote, Marcus laughed, the sound light and genuine. "Yeah, baby, we can get ice cream. We can celebrate." As they walked toward the exit, Judge Caprio called out one more time, "Mr. Richardson?" Quote, Marcus turned back. "You interrupted me 10 times that first day. Today you didn't interrupt once. That's growth." Marcus smiled. "I learned to listen, Your Honor. Finally learned to listen." And with that, Marcus Richardson, his daughter Lily, and his attorney Patricia Chen walked out of Providence Municipal Court for the last time. The March afternoon sun streamed through the courthouse windows, bright and warm, full of promise. But that's not the end of the story. 6 months later, August 2024, Marcus Richardson kept his promise. He returned to Judge Caprio's courtroom as a volunteer. He spoke to dozens of defendants over the following months, sharing his story with raw honesty. Some dismissed him, some rolled their eyes, but some, a precious few, listened, really listened. And several of those defendants went on to transform their own lives, citing Marcus's testimony as their turning point. Marcus continued visiting Robert Chen weekly. The elderly man eventually returned to physical therapy, then to the senior center, then to regular social activities. A year after their first meeting, Robert told Marcus that he'd saved his life, not dramatically, but truthfully. He'd been ready to give up on life before Marcus showed him that people could change, that hope wasn't naive. Patricia Morton and Marcus became unlikely friends. He helped her with technology, setting up her smartphone and teaching her how to video call her husband. She invited him and Lily to Sunday dinners becoming a surrogate grandmother figure in Lily's life. Emma Walsh's family sent Marcus photos as she grew. Her cancer remained in remission. She wrote him letters in her improving handwriting, telling him about school and friends and her dreams of becoming a doctor when she grew up. And Marcus himself? He thrived. He was promoted twice at his company. He started a nonprofit called Second Chance Parking, a program that helped people with parking violations who genuinely couldn't afford the fines, paying their tickets in exchange for community service commitments. Judge Caprio became the honorary chairman. In March 2025, exactly 2 years after that fateful hearing, Marcus Richardson published a short book titled 10 Interruptions: How Hitting Rock Bottom Saved My Life. The book detailed his journey from arrogance to accountability, from selfishness to service. All proceeds went to organizations serving the vulnerable populations his parking violations had affected: children's hospitals, senior centers, and schools. Hit subscribe if this story moved you. Drop a comment telling us about a time you had to learn accountability the hard way. Share this video with someone who needs to believe that people can change, because this story proves they can. In the book's acknowledgments section, Marcus wrote, "To Judge Frank Caprio, who gave me the greatest gift anyone has ever given me, he refused to let me stay the person I was. When I interrupted him 10 times, dismissed victims, and showed contempt for justice, he could have simply sent me to jail and moved on. Instead, he crafted a sentence designed not to punish me, but to transform me. He saw potential I didn't know existed. He demanded better, because he believed I was capable of better. This book exists because of his wisdom, his compassion, and his unwavering commitment to real justice, the kind that heals rather than just punishes." And in one of the final passages of the book, Marcus reflected on the moment that changed everything. "When Judge Caprio asked me what kind of man I wanted my daughter to think I was, everything stopped. All my defenses, all my justifications, all my arrogance, it all crumbled. Because I knew the answer. I wanted Lily to think I was good. And I knew, standing there in that courtroom after interrupting the judge 10 times and dismissing every person I'd harmed, that I wasn't good. Not even close. That moment of brutal self-recognition, that moment of seeing myself through my daughter's future eyes, was the beginning of my transformation. Sometimes we need someone to hold up a mirror and refuse to let us look away. Judge Caprio was my mirror. This book is my attempt to be a mirror for others." Today, Marcus Richardson continues his community service work voluntarily. He visits Robert Chen every Sunday. He mentors defendants in Judge Caprio's courtroom. He's engaged to be married to a woman he met at the senior center, a volunteer coordinator who saw him helping residents and struck up a conversation. Lily is 5 now, in kindergarten, kind and empathetic and learning from a father who models those qualities every day. And Judge Frank Caprio? He continues to preside over Providence Municipal Court, dispensing justice with wisdom and compassion, one case at a time. When asked about the Marcus Richardson case in interviews, he always says the same thing. "I didn't change Marcus. Marcus changed Marcus. I just gave him a reason to start and a structure to succeed." That's what justice should do. Not just punish the past, but create the conditions for a better future. This story is real proof that justice isn't just about punishment. It's about accountability paired with opportunity. It's about consequences that teach rather than just hurt. It's about seeing the person inside the criminal, the potential inside the failure, the future inside the mistake. Marcus Richardson interrupted Judge Caprio 10 times. He got the maximum sentence. And then something incredible happened. He became the person he was always capable of being. He became the man his daughter believes him to be. He became proof that transformation is possible when we're brave enough to face ourselves and humble enough to accept help. If this story moved you, do 3 things right now. 1. Subscribe to this channel for more stories about justice, redemption, and the power of second chances. 2. Leave a comment sharing your own story of transformation or a time when someone gave you a second chance that changed your life. 3. Share this video with someone who needs hope, who needs to believe that their past doesn't define their future, who needs to know that rock bottom can be the foundation for something beautiful. And remember, we all make mistakes. What defines us isn't the mistake, it's what we do after. Marcus Richardson chose to become better. What will you choose?